Right, I'm serious. Let's do it. Right.
Right.
Okay. In your own time, you can play
Wait.
Hillbilly Jim's song.
Do you want the original or the live at the Slammies 1986 version?
Give me that one. Give me the one you just played.
Okay. Yeah. This here's a good hoedown.
Is that what it came out to at WrestleMania 17?
It certainly is.
And everybody knew who it was.
Don't go messing with a country boy. That's when I first heard that song. Was when I watched the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17, and I think a lot of our generation did. Unless you had access to like old tapes from the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
Hillbilly Jim was not a name that I knew, and then I fell in love with him when I saw him in the Gimmick Battle Royal.
Sorry.
I was just going to say I learned that you don't go messing with a country boy.
No. Well, I always had a soft spot for Doink the Clown.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, I just always thought he was really cool. So when he came out at WrestleMania 17, I went mental, and then he got eliminated really quickly. And I wouldn't see him again until the APA Ballroom Brawl at Vengeance 03.
Which I've yet to watch, but I know the Easter Bunny's in that.
Easter Bunny, Brother Love.
Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah, it's a good one. And funnily enough, the APA win. Because they got to go over, brother. Well, we're here, ladies and gents. It's episode number 28, and it's finally here. No, this podcast is not once in a lifetime. No, this podcast is not twice in a lifetime. And no, this podcast is not, believe it or not, the end of an era. It is actually just the start of something great, the start of something new, as Troy Bolton would say. Oh my God, I can't believe that was a High School Musical reference on my wrestling podcast. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, this is the Wrestling Connection. As I say, we are just getting started because the future is bright and we are going stronger and stronger than ever. My friends, my name is Chris and I'm joined by Mr. Glen. Heavy on the Mister. How are you feeling this week, my dear friend?
Good, settled, established in my my new home. It feels like with every passing day and week, something new is added to the equation to make it feel more like a home, whether that be just putting more pictures up or, it could be or big appliances coming in. But for example, on my desk here up in the Glen Den, as you christened it a couple of weeks ago, I have framed in front of me the picture of you and me and Robert and Jamie at Monday Night Raw at the Hydro in Glasgow. And it's a lovely picture. I love it very much. So it just seems appropriate. So I'm up here in my wee den. It's lovely and cozy, and I'm doing well. I am off work right now, Chris. This is another good thing. It's a public holiday. Well, it's not. It's just a school holiday, but
that'll be good. That'll be nice. A whole week off. You get to sit and watch wrestling 24/7. Are you excited for that?
If it were at all possible, I would be. But I tell you what, I'm looking forward to catching up. I'm looking forward to. Finally watching TakeOver 31, which I've seen like the first 5 minutes of, and already I'm in love with the Capital Wrestling Center.
Yes,
and that opening package. But finally getting around to watching some AEW and some Impact will be awesome. But I'm not gonna lie, I am still a teacher. I still have a lot of work to do. But wrestling's always a good background thing. That's pretty much how I worked through the entire lockdown, was with wrestling on in the background.
Yeah. That's a good thing though. You've got something there that can really be your foundation when you're working. Have something there to take breaks with and that sort of thing, which is really cool. You've been through. It's been a busy year for everybody, but you've went through a lot of stuff in terms of moving house and moving job and all that stuff. How are you mentally? And I don't want to make that as if it's some sort of joke. This is a serious question, and I feel like that's a question that's used as a transition a lot of times. You walk past someone in the street, and you go, "Hi, how you doing?" or "How you doing?" or "How are you?" or whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't even wait for the answer, and it's obviously just an uncomfortable, awkward thing. But we've just had World Mental Health Day. It shouldn't really need to be a day. It should be every day, but it's nice to know that we've got a day and that we can, spread all these nice things on social media, which do actually help sometimes when you want to read some uplifting and positive messages on there. But I ask you as a friend and here who is someone who has had a tumultuous year, how
Mm.
are you?
Well, thank you for asking. Well, first, haven't we all had a tumultuous year? To your very point, I'm good. Like I love the idea of a mental health day, but I agree with you that I think it should be every day. I liked hearing people tell their stories online and on various platforms, and
Yeah.
for me, it has been a tumultuous year, but I think I'm at a point right now in my life personally where I'm much better at coping and with
Yes.
difficult things. And that's down to a lot of reasons. When I met my wife years ago, she kind of pointed me in the right direction because I've always had a lot of deep seated anxiety issues. And around about the time I started getting into teaching, when I was doing my training year, I went through privately. I paid for this. I went through cognitive behavioral therapy, which you can do in the NHS, but I wanted to do it quickly
Right.
for coping with anxious situations and stressful situations and all other kinds of stuff. A good therapist can really get under the skin, and I would recommend therapy to anyone who can afford it. If you're struggling, even it doesn't need to be a big major thing. You don't need to be diagnosed with a really heavy, debilitating mental health disorder. You can go there just to help you cope with your everyday life. There's
Yep.
lots of resources out there, and that going through that CBT, I think gave me like a good arsenal, good tools and coping mechanisms, which I won't go into loads of detail about right now, but how to deal with stressful situations. And I honestly think, had I not done that, I wouldn't be able to be a teacher today because that's a stressful job.
Of course.
And I certainly don't think I would have coped with this year in the way I have. It's definitely been stressful, and like I do still have signs of high stress. Like I get bad eczema when I'm stressed, like because
Right.
I'm a scratcher, So I've had a lot of that get worse over these last couple of months, particularly with the move and with the pandemic and everything like that. But I think whereas I've definitely had better years, and I guess we all have. I think I'm doing well, and I'm in a better position to be there for those that I love. And my perspective is so important when it comes to mental health. So, like, you always just need to kind of make sure you've got things to look forward to in life, and it could be little things like I love a Saturday morning because Kate and I have a coffee together with the dog, and not the dog doesn't have coffee, I should stress. And we watch
She would if
telly,
she
and
could. Yeah.
she definitely would. This is the dog who once tried to eat a frog, and that's not
Right.
something from a Dr. Seuss book. That or it's like doing this podcast. Like when we went through those last few weeks where you had to cut together that best of, I really missed it, and I think that I felt that weigh me down. That I missed having that to look forward to. I still can't believe I've not seen you since March.
That's crazy, isn't it? I feel like because
Isn't
we
it?
speak every week, it's like we've caught up recently. You know what I mean? But it's just because it's been a constant since March. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thank you for asking. And I think it's always good to talk openly about these things. You should never feel forced to do so. But I'll return the question, and you can answer in as much depth or detail or as little as you so desire, because that's the beauty of mental health,
Yeah.
is that you make the right decisions to safeguard your own mental well-being. How are you, my dear friend?
I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. It's one of those ones where it's because I've been in such a routine for so long now, and I love a routine. People who know me as a routine-based guy. And I mean a routine for everything, like in terms of programs that I watch, in terms of things I do during the day. I don't know. I just do have certain routines that I like to go through, and because I've been stuck in those routines literally since March, and we've
Yeah.
breached it a couple of times here and there once the lockdown restrictions have kind of been eased, and then kind of tightened a little bit again. But we're at a point now where I was on my walk today, and I should clarify that I've been going as many walks as I can ever since March, just to try and get outside and just trying to stay active and trying to keep the mind going. And I mean, this doing the podcast is good for keeping the mind going and giving you something to do to help help the day progress. And it's always something to look forward to. But I've been really enjoying going a wee walk just to kind of either listen to music, listen to a podcast, or really just to kind of clear your mind a little bit. I actually think the best walks are when you're not listening to anything and
Oh,
you're
I totally
just
agree.
you're just with yourself. I know it kind of sounds a bit daft, but it's so true.
No, it's
Um,
definitely true, man. I just to quickly jump in. Ironically, I heard about this whilst listening to a podcast. There's a
yeah,
Scottish-based podcast called Drunk Therapy, and they spoke about this fact that we're conditioned to just always want to be stimulated. And when I heard that,
yeah.
I thought, "Oh my god, I'm taking the earphones out." And now I very rarely listen to stuff when I'm out walking. Just listening to life is
Yeah,
is really good for your brain, I think.
It's interesting. And when I was walking today, I noticed there's lots more kind of brown leaves on the trees and stuff, and the leaves are kind of falling off the trees and stuff. And I realised, my God, like it's October. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We're here in the autumn time, and in March, life just kind of stopped, right?
yeah,
And it was almost as if it was like, you know, the way you're going through maybe a rough time at work, or you're going through a rough patch in your life or something. You just think, okay, well, this will pass. You know, it's like a wee hiccup you might be going through, but you know,
hmm
there's an end, end in sight. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's fine. We'll kind of get through it. Whereas I kind of felt that was going to be the case back in March, and the fact we're still here.
mm,
And listen, I've been extremely lucky. I've said this before. I was very relieved actually. It kind of makes me feel, or makes me seem a bit arrogant to say that. Back in March, I was a wee bit relieved the fact that life was about to stop, because everyone could just take a break. Everybody could just
yeah.
have a breather. Go have a cup of tea, everybody. You know what I mean? And then it's just kind of progressed and progressed and progressed. And today I was thinking, I get quite emotional when I think about time passing. This has gone
Mm.
very deep, and I quite like this. This is the start of the show this week, ladies and gents.
Hello,
We'll get to
my
wrestling in a
friend,
second.
we meet again. It's been a while. Where should we begin?
It
How
has
have we
felt like
gone from
forever.
Hillbilly Jim to this?
I know. I don't know. I don't know. But the passing of time, it's crazy, and I can't believe we're now here. We're coming into the later months in the year. It's almost winter again. But what a
Mm.
year it's been, and I'd like to thank you for being a constant in my life the whole year, and to all the listeners for listening every single week. 28 episodes in a row, ladies and gents. It was not
Yeah, man.
easy, but it's always been a chore. Not a chore. I was like, it's always been a chore. It's not been a chore.
Oh, now the truth's coming out 6 months in, okay?
It's always been a pain in the ass. No, it's always been such a delight, and it's helped me. You know, it's helped the year fly in so quickly. So it's all down to the podcast, it's all down to you, and it's all down to wrestling in general. Let's talk some wrestling. My God. Let's
Why not?
remember
But
wrestling. That's the thing what the podcast is all about.
I do want to just return the thanks to you as well. Like I've said this before, and we sometimes when we've recorded episodes, I've texted you and been like, "Man, I can't stop thanking you enough. It's been so nice to uh, to do this." And when we first started, I kind of thought, we'll see how long it lasts. I worry about my work getting in the way, and
Yep.
that's one of the only positives of the pandemic was that even though we've yet to be able to do an episode face to face, I think it's kind of helped us keep it going. I wondered if we would
100%.
have stuck around for this long. We're now 6 months in, and long may it continue is all I can say, because I see no reason now why it can't continue. Because
Yeah.
I'm settled in my new house and my new routine. Even if society opens up, I do like the idea of having you up in the Glen Den one day, and that we can finally do that Rebellion watch along. That
Yeah.
one day when it's safe to do so, and who knows when that will be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I won't touch anything. I'll sit on the other side of the Glen then. We do want to get the okay from the people in charge. You know what I mean? We don't want to be breaking any rules here.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Um,
Anyway, wrestling.
yeah. Well, I was going to say wrestling, but do you have a story you want to share with us this week?
Oh, bugger me. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Maybe you should have bleeped that. I don't know.
No, I'll let that one slip.
You let that one slip. Right. Okay. So, as I have stated, as I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and I keep bringing it up, I've just moved house, and it's a big deal. That's why I keep telling everyone about it, because it's like one of the most pressing things happening in my life. And especially when you've come out of a COVID lockdown where your routine is really grounded in your home, to then suddenly change your home
Yeah.
is a big deal. And it's Kate and I's, like, obviously we've lived together for quite a while, but it's our first home together. You know what I mean? Like we lived together for a while, but this feels like because when I lived with her in the last place, like she lived there on her own before she knew me, so I kind of moved
see.
into that place, and this is like ours. It's like our marital home,
Yeah.
and but it means that when you buy a house and you get like a mortgage, you're not guaranteed certain luxuries upon entry, like furniture or like a functional kitchen. So like there's been a lot of work. Like, the toilet was flushing, that was good.
That's like always a good thing. Yeah.
So it's been a kind of I say a long process, but it's all kind of fallen into place quite quickly, of like getting stuff installed, getting the telly working, getting all the aerial fixed and satellite telly, and getting the internet up and running. And one of the things that we needed was a washing machine. For our first couple of weeks, we were taking advantage of all the people nearby us for washing our clothes. And so we finally were getting one booked in last week. I'd bought the washing machine on my phone, so I was getting all the notifications to say when the washing machine was going to come, right?
Right.
So I knew it was coming on the Sunday, and it said, I got an email to say two guys are going to show up to wheel it into your house, and then one guy's going to stay to install it and just like ventilate the property if you can, wear masks if you can, all the usual that you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
So we hear some like wheels outside, and we realize it's them, and we can just kind of see them kind of wheeling this washing machine up. And then I see the other guy going away. They're like, it's kind of like a tall guy, and so he's like going away now. And then it's just the one other guy that's now coming in with the washing machine to install it. So he comes in, and he's like, he's walking backwards because he's pulling it into the front door. And so I don't get a good look at him at first, and he's wearing a mask. But then he turns around, Chris, and I'm going to use 2 words to describe this man, and I think it'll put an image straight into your head, okay? Right. And it was at this point I knew that no matter what happened next, I would need to share the story with you. So this man turned around, and I kid you not, like what I'm going to refer to here, he was the spit of this individual. He was identical. Here are my 2 words. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Scottish Otis. Just going to have a quick sip.
Right. God, I don't know. I was expecting a catchphrase, and then you've just created your own character.
It gets better, because Otis is also known for his way of talking. You know, the "oh yeah, like that, right?
Oh yeah, tucky."
Yeah. But here's the thing. He spoke like that as well, but Scottish. So it's like, right, mate, we're going to get this into your kitchen, by the way. And can I just stress, like, this guy was amazing, right? He was, and I'm going to go into a bit more detail. He like, I'm not poking fun at the guy in terms of his skill set, because he was clearly like a very skilled man, and he knows more about. Like, he clearly has a better brain in his head than I do. So I'm not trying to imply that he's a daft or anything like that. I'm just saying that visually and in terms of how he spoke, he was Otis, okay?
Right. Mr. Money in the Bank.
Mr. Money in the Bank, except instead of carrying a briefcase, he's dragging a washing machine. So it gets more interesting, because he drags it through the kitchen. And he tries to put it in, and so I'm like in the living room, like trying to keep Luna calmed down, because Luna's in her crate, and Luna doesn't like intruders, so Luna's giving it.
Luna loves heavy machinery.
Oh my god, he was carrying heavy machinery! I didn't realize this. Oh my god. Oh my god, he was carting heavy machinery. Right, so Scottish Otis. God. You're not going to believe where this story goes, by the way. So just strap in right away.
Right.
So he's in the kitchen trying to fill this into the space where the previous owner's washing machine was. So he's like trying to get it into that bit. And so at first it's fine. And I'm just trying to talk to Luna, but then I don't know if you'll hear this, but then I start hearing a like that, you know, like a bang, bang, bang. And then I just hear this kind of, oh yeah, oh.
Right. Jesus.
And then I go through, and he's like on his hands and knees, and he's trying to shove this thing in. And so basically what happened was the previous owner's washing machine was a bit too big. So when they pulled it out, the unit kind of relaxed, and it was creating a tight space for the current washing machine to go in. So he explains to me in his amazing Otis voice that, you know, it's going to take brute force to get it in. But because they're hired by the company, he can't push it in any further, because if it causes damage, then the company's liable. So legally, he can only push it in so much. So it's sticking out a little bit, and that's fine. But just the visual guy of this guy on the floor pushing it in, and then at one point he was on his back with his feet against it, you know, pushing it into this thing, trying to get it into the unit. And the whole time, I kid you not, he would go, oh yeah. Like Otis, and he looked like Otis. I have to stress, this was Otis in my kitchen, and so he gets it in most of the way, and he says like it will go in, but you're gonna have to do it or find a way of doing it. And long story short, Kate managed to do that, right? But he goes away, and so that was fine, and I said thanks very much, and off he went. And then so that was that. Right, Otis came with his heavy machinery. Thanks for pointing that out, Chris. And he left.
What are you for?
And this is the bit where you're going to tell me when I tell you this final detail and that I'm lying, or you're not going to believe it. But I will send you proof at some point because I'm sure I can find it and screenshot it. I then about a day later got an email that said, "Could you rate your engineer or something like that, or whatever it was?" And so then I open up and I go, "Sure." And then the survey opens up and it goes, "On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your engineer Tucker's friendliness?"
No way.
His name was Tucker, and he looked like Otis, and he handled heavy machinery.
Jesus. What is oh my god. What is happening? Oh,
And that's why I said to you last week, can you please remind me to tell you the washing machine story?
Because not only did he look like Otis, and not only was he handling heavy machinery, could he do the worm?
I bet he could have done. It was just, oh yeah. It was basically the Otis oh yeah, but more Scottish, and he did it a couple of oh yeah. Oh yeah, you'll never get that in oh yeah.
And his name is Tucker.
His name was Tucker, allegedly. So that's been my
That's been your week.
That's been my week. Was just sometimes I just sit and think about him. You know,
Yeah.
I wonder where he is now and what he's doing. What kind of home does he have?
Yeah.
What does his wife look like? You know, does she look like Mandy? I want to know. Is she called Mandy?
How amazing would that be? This is my wife Amanda. Well, no, because Tucker doesn't get with Mandy Rose. You know what I mean?
No, I know.
You know what? I'm feeling bad for Tucker. Otis is getting the big push, and I'd actually probably say that Tucker's probably the better wrestler.
I couldn't even tell you what Tucker's like in the ring. You know, that's how kind of faded he's got to me. But, you know, those guys were over as a more serious act in NXT. So, like, we know that they're a great team together, you know, and we know that they can both do it in the ring. They wouldn't be where they were if they couldn't.
Well, I just hope that Tucker doesn't get lost. I bet he get drafted to Raw, and Otis get drafted to SmackDown, so they're officially splits ski. And of course, as you predicted a couple weeks ago, so are the New Day. So that's a very exciting time.
Yeah.
What do you make? I mean, you said that we're going to put one of each on each three brands, but Kofi and Woods are going to Raw, and Big E staying on SmackDown. What do you make of that?
Yeah, and I suppose, like, obviously anything I say might seem a bit outdated, but I think it's the right thing to do because they've had a great run, and you should always leave them wanting more. And maybe it's debatable, but like the New Day are still over. The New Day are still very popular. You don't want them to outstay their welcome. I think, obviously, like I say, this might sound outdated. So I'm hoping by the time this goes out that they've maybe then gone on to do something with Xavier and Kofi, because I don't mind how they do it, but I don't think those two should remain a team. I'm not saying they both need to be single stars, but I think if they just kind of limp on as a version of the New Day, it's a bit lame. But if at time of recording they're the SmackDown Tag Champions, right? But they're headed to Raw, so there's a story there somewhere. There's a one-on-one rivalry. If they both go to Raw and have a feud or something, like they can have a big pay-per-view series, you know, and one of them could be heel. And then beyond that, then I still would like to see Kofi do something in NXT. But the one thing I can tell you, Chris, that I don't want is those two to go on as New Day Light. I want this to be a new chapter for them all so that they can reflect proudly on 5 years of the New Day. A gimmick which nobody liked at first and nobody said would work. And then it got over after about, I don't know, a few months, 6 months, a year maybe. So it's a huge success story. And then further down the line, in a couple of years' time, you do the big reunion, or they do that thing they do in Royal Rumble sometimes where they're all in the ring at the same time. Or remember when the Shield did the Powerbomb at the Survivor Series 2016, and that was a big deal. Yeah. Stuff like that, you can do little things to be nostalgic, and then there's money in that as a reunion. But if you just have them limping on as New Day Light, then it's going to be you're ruining the charm of the full-on reunion. So I say have them wherever this goes. I think they should all go their separate ways. What are your thoughts?
You know what my favourite, well, not my favourite, but one of the most underrated kind of Rumble stare-offs of all time was? Do you remember in 2018 when it was like the Ruthless Aggression stars versus like Now stars? And no one talked about it because it was like the generation before, but usually it's like a pure like Attitude Era versus the most recent superstar. face off.
Mm.
But it was more cool, I thought, because there was less time between the eras.
Yeah,
And
I
of course
loved
I
it.
grew up through Ruthless Aggression, so I had like a soft spot for that anyway. But still, it was just really cool.
It was what was cool was that because what was it? It was Shinsuke, Roman, and somebody
And Finn
against
Balor.
Finn Balor versus Cena, Orton, and Mysterio, right?
Yeah. How imagine that 6-man tag? Oh my god.
Oh my god! And the thing is, what I loved about it was not just the cool visual, but the moment when you saw the fans getting it,
Yeah,
and they all
exactly.
kind of like blew up. That was awesome. Like, it reminded me of when SmackDown and Raw faced off in like the 05 Rumble, I think it was.
That was a good
04.
one. Yeah, and like Kurt Angle was like being in charge and stuff. That was a cool one.
Yeah, and that was when people were really into the brand split, and it was really well done at that point. We still aren't there. We still haven't got. We were getting close before the pandemic, but we still haven't got a properly executed brand split yet.
Well, I don't understand why we needed a draft. We were just still establishing, our rosters. I get, getting new matchups and stuff like that, but still, we're still establishing, brand pride. And I understand we're in an issue here. The fact that the shows can't really look different right now because of the Thunderdome, and they're all filming at the same place and that sort of thing. But when we get back on the road and back in front of crowds and that sort of thing, I would like it to be like it was right before the pandemic, where Raw had this cool like long screen skate park Titantron, and then SmackDown had this really cool retro Fox Titantron, which was really cool, and that did look different. The blue and the red, I'm 100% behind that. That's going to be one of my thankful segments one week. Different coloured ropes and different colours of the brand. I just love the fact that it makes it so individual and stuff.
Yeah, I loved it when they came back in 2016. I
was so relieved. I jumped off my couch, and Pyro. I was like, oh my god, thank God, so happy for that. But not to ignore your question about the New Day. I totally agree. I think they're going to stay together as a tag team, but the fact, obviously, this will be well outdated by the time this comes out, but I don't know what they're going to do with the tag titles. I wonder if we're going to get a heel Kofi or something. I'm sure it probably has happened by now, if it does happen at all. But I guess they could probably just still be the New Day. But again, people will look at it and go, okay, well, it's not as good, unless they focus more on actual tag team wrestling, because when the New Day was the three of them, it was always like this round robin thing where you didn't know who was going to perform, and it was like it's more of a group than a team, I guess. I guess you could do a 2-on-2 kind of match more often now with Woods and Kofi, but I don't know. And I would love Big E to get a run as the Universal Champion. I don't see it happening anytime soon, because of Roman Reigns in his position and how amazing he's being right now. But yeah, I guess there's still time, WrestleMania's still 6 months away. I'm not saying it has to happen at WrestleMania, but it's something to think about, and he's definitely capable of being world champion. And I think the fans would go with it, much like they went with Kofi.
Yeah, they would. I think the timing is going to be, even though he might be really over right now, I worry about timing. I worry about, at best right now, he could have a series of pay-per-view main events with Roman, but he would never win. He'd come out of it looking good, but I don't think he'd get the title. I think if WWE gets all its wishes, all of WWE's wishes come true, then what you want is Roman and The Rock, and so that means Roman's got to hold that belt to Mania. And I think that's right. I think Roman has to have that for a long time.
I think he will, yeah. I think he will, and I actually probably think he'll probably retain it at WrestleMania. But I think this is going to be like a Cena 06 reign. This is going to be like over a year, no one even comes close. And then like Shawn Michaels showed up and nearly won it, and then it was like, oh wait, Shawn Michaels wouldn't win the title at this age. But hey ho, listen, that's what we're here for: random rants and tangents about pro wrestling. And did I say the word random? Let's play Random Wrestler Recollection.
Nice one. I didn't know we were going to do this.
Every week, my brother, every week. Here we go. It's like my favourite segment. It's like such a fun, quick story. We are talking about this week. Oh, it's a good one. It is a good one. Please tell me your memories of the leader of the Brood, Gangrel.
Oh my God, I kid you not. Right. So you know how we've had Josh Matthews, etc., and we've had people doing different cameo introductions for us.
Yeah.
So Robert came and sat in my garden about 2 or 3 days ago, and he said, do you know who you should get since it's October? And I'm like, who? And he goes, Gangrel. Does Gangrel do them? And I'm looking for cameos. Like, sorry, dude, he doesn't do them. But then Chris, not to get our listeners' hopes up, but he does them for another agency.
Oh,
and he's not very expensive, so just something we should consider. But I love Gangrel. It would be such an honor if he could do an introduction for the podcast, because I mean, we all talk about that entrance, and that music is one of the best entrances of all time. The character should have been stupid, and everyone should have thought it was a load of rubbish. But there was something about the way he owned it, and the timing of it culturally. When there was like a lot of kind of vampire stuff out there, like Buffy the Vampire and Angel, of the Vampire Slayer, I should say. So I think even though it seemed a bit ridiculous, maybe on paper, I think he made it work. And the various incarnations of the Brood, the bloodbaths, the music, the way he would walk and nod his head and wear those shades.
Yeah.
Like, there was a guy who I don't know much about him in terms of his wrestling ability, because I can never remember any of his matches. And I know he held the European title, I'm pretty sure, at one point.
Yeah.
But I don't remember him as a wrestler. He's a character, and that's what wrestling's all about: is moments and characters. And he was excellent for that. And I also have respect for the fact that he had trademark over his own name. So every time he's been in a video game, the WWE always have to say that it's owned by Gangrel, whether he's in a documentary or a video game. To the extent that if you have a copy of the WWE Encyclopedia and you go to the G section and you go to where Gangrel should be, he's there, but they put him in under his real name because they don't want to have to pay to print his name in that book.
You literally read my mind. Like, that was you felt my mind through the microphone. Like, my question was, why is his name David Heath in the encyclopedia?
Simply because WWE does not want to pay.
That's crazy. You gonna pay. I think we should do a whole episode on the history and our favourite memories of the European Championship. Wouldn't that be so much fun?
Oh my God, yes, that's happening.
We can't do the WWE title, so let's do the European.
And that's more manageable because it only existed for about, 5 years?
Yeah, we could do that. We could do the US title if we want. We could do the hardcore title. We could do the cruiserweight title. And the other ones might be a bit too long, but there we go. That's an idea. We'll keep that in mind. The reason I think Gangrel worked so well is because he, much like The Undertaker and much like Kane and much like these guys, he fully embraced the character. And he was really aggressive in the ring. They tried to recreate it with Kevin Thorne. And I quite liked Kevin Thorne. I heard he was a really nice guy. He did a lot of autograph signings in the UK. I never met him, but I know a lot of people who did meet him and said he was a very nice guy. And he was also, he went with the character and very aggressive in the ring, but there was something about the presentation that was a bit too daft, whereas Gangrel wasn't so much daft, it was more cool. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
but I think the Kevin Thorne thing was because, ECW was on Sci-Fi, and they wanted monsters. Yeah. So that's why you had the Zombie, and that's why you had Big Daddy V on there, and that's why Kane ended up going there, and Mark Henry, and these big wrestlers. So then we also had the vampire character. Sorry, say again?
I was just saying here, I still wince when I watch that Sandman Zombie match. I've never seen anyone be so battered by a kendo stick in my life.
Oh, poor guy. So they wanted all these monsters and stuff because it was sci-fi, so they thought we'll get a vampire and call him Kevin Thorne. They should have just brought back Gangrel. He would have made it, you know what I mean? There's a bit of credibility to him, and I don't know why. Is it the gear? Is it the big boots? Is it the weird hair? I don't know, but he brought some credibility. He was a little bit before my time. I started watching in 2001. He didn't see much from me. He popped up here and there. He popped up in TNA for a bit. But that was it. Like, anytime I've had to watch him, it's been on, watching old pay-per-views and that sort of thing. And now doing my whole Attitude Era watch-along thing, I'm in 99, and the Brood have just split from the Ministry. So now he's taking on more of a kind of like a leadership role with Edge and Christian, but they're about to kick him out. And then he's going to join the Hardys, which is going to be very exciting. And we're going to have the Terry Invitational Tournament with the Hardys and Edge and Christian. So I like Gangrel. Not, one of my boys, and not one of my favourites ever, but definitely someone I would happily watch and talk about here on a podcast if I was to ever own one about wrestling.
Nice one, man. What a great choice. I have so much time for Gangrel, and it does seem appropriate that I'm actually drinking a glass of red wine right now.
Oh, that's cool. I dare you to spit it out like Gangrel. Go, I dare you.
No, because I'd like to stay married.
Ruined the Glen then with red wine. Before we move on, ask me if I made any fun purchases this week.
Hey, I know the answer to this, Chris. No, I don't actually. I was thinking of something else. Chris, did you? I'm going to try that again. Chris.
Yes, Glenn.
Don't ever go messing with a country boy. No, Chris. Why am I finding this funny? Chris,
Yes. What did you think I'd bought?
I was thinking of the Baby Yoda thing that you sent me a picture
Oh,
of.
it's standing right in front of me. You want a picture?
Chris,
Yes.
did you buy anything interesting this week?
I did. As a matter of fact, I did, my friend Glen.
Good.
So we haven't touched on our wrestling figure episode yet, have we?
No.
And we definitely should do one.
We absolutely should, yeah.
Well, good, because I want to talk about wrestling figures right now, and this will be a sort of appetizer for that episode because it's going to happen in full, and it's probably going to be about 4 hours long, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So the last time I bought a wrestling figure was, I'm going to say 2015, and I'd received birthday presents and Christmas presents of wrestling figures as a bit of a joke. People saying, "Oh, you couldn't have a birthday without getting a wrestler," but to me, it's not a joke. That's great. You know what I mean? Like, I love wrestling figures. I've always loved wrestling figures. I don't buy them and play with them or collect them anymore. But I went through a phase, and I've told you this before, where I had hundreds of wrestling figures. So I just don't buy them anymore. I'm not interested in paying all that money for them. But then the new company, the new wrestling, as I've been talking about, All Elite Wrestling, released their new wrestling figures. And I'll tell you something, they're a hot ticket. They're very, very hot right now. Very hard to find. Any store that's trying to ship them are getting sold out within minutes. Any websites that isn't, international websites like Ringside Collectibles and stuff are being sold out in minutes. So it's very, very hard to get them. And I don't know what it was. I think it's much similar to if AEW ever released DVDs and Blu-rays. Like, I want them. I just want them. I want the first ones ever. I want to say that I owned original AEW merchandise, because we're at the infancy of the company, and it's not going to happen every day. The AEW, I don't know how long it's going to last for. With any luck, it's going to last forever. And, 50 years down the line, I can say that I own whatever, That's why I want to get early, merchandise and that sort of thing. I've got AEW t-shirts that were released in the first year, all that stuff. So they released wrestling figures, the AEW Unrivaled series, 6 figures. One was Brandy Rhodes, which is impossible to find for some reason. That's the most popular one. And it's already on eBay. Sorry, go on.
That was the only female in the first series, wasn't it?
Only female one in the first and second series, I believe. I believe the second series might either been, I have Nyla Rose or maybe Hikaru Shida. I do not know. But Brandy Rhodes, I don't know why it's already on eBay going for 3 figures. It's crazy. And then I've got Matt and Nick Jackson, which for some reason I can't find anywhere, but I'm sure they'll not be too bad to find. And then there's the Cody Rhodes one, which I cannot get my hands on. I've got the Smiths website on my phone ready to go, and I'm just ready to refresh it and try and find it, because that's the one I want the most, because that's like number 1. And Cody's one of my favourite wrestlers, and I just kind of want that one. But then the other 2 that I've wanted were Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. So for the longest time, I've had the Kenny Omega one opened on my phone, and I've been refreshing every day just in case it comes in store, right? And every single time it says out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. This is on the Smiths website, and I've linked up to my location, so it's my nearest store, which is the one in Glasgow. And I was thinking, whenever one comes in store, I'm going to see it. So Friday night, I was in the house, wasn't doing anything, was about to watch a movie. I was going through my apps, and I just thought, I'll check. And it said there was 1 Kenny Omega available. They just got a new batch. They had however many you get in a batch, 25 or something. 1 available, 1 left. So I went, I kind of wanted to go into the shop, and walk over to the shelf and see them all there and go, I'm going to buy this one, just like old times. But the fact there was 1 left, this was like midnight, so obviously the store's closed. So I was like, I'm just going to get it. So I clicked click and collect. I'll go and pick it up tomorrow. So I ordered Kenny Omega. I was like, I just want to have the Kenny Omega one. I just want to say I've got one of the Series 1 AEW figures. And then I woke up the next day and was just checking my order stuff. I got a confirmation saying, okay, your order's complete. Then I checked the website again, and it said they had 5 Chris Jericho figures in store.
What?
So I said, I have to go for it. I have to order that one as well. So I did click and collect for Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. I walked up to Smith's to go in, and the queue was massive, man. It was so long. There was so many people waiting to get in Smith's. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because it's kind of Christmassy season, or it's just because all the shops are, having limited numbers in. I don't know, but it was mobbed. So there was 1 queue for the normal entrance, and the other queue was for click and collect. And the click and collect one was empty, so I could just walk in. So I walked right in, walked up the stairs, and there, holding in my hands, I had Kenny Omega and I had Chris Jericho. And I was like, my God, I've just walked into a shop and I've bought an AEW figure. And I felt really cool. I felt very nostalgic going into a store and getting wrestling figures, new ones, that are rare and not many people have. You know, I felt really good about it. So then I went down to the wrestling section, and there was none there. It was all WWE stuff, and there was one Jericho, like
Yeah.
right at the back of the thing, and I was like, oh, good, I got it just in time. And as I was leaving, there was this wee boy standing there with his dad, and that always takes me back as well, because I was always go with my dad and stuff, and he'd always buy me a figure. And the wee boy, I kid you not, picked the Jericho, the AEW Jericho figure off the shelf, the one remaining Jericho, and stared at it, and he was like, whoa. He was like, the AEW ones are so cool. And I don't know what it was. It just made me it made me smile so much. I was like, this wee boy is getting excited not only about a wrestling figure, but the fact it's the AEW one. You know, I don't know how much exposure. I know AEW every single week because I'm me, but I don't know how kids find AEW these days. You know, I know it's on ITV4 and stuff, but still, I don't know what the young people like these days for wrestling.
No.
So the fact that he was still pure mesmerised by the AEW figure was really, really reassuring and really cool. It's nice to think like that buzz is still there for kids, the same way it was for me. So there you go. I now own the Jericho and the Omega AEW figures, and I want the Cody. If anybody knows how we get the Cody, please hit me up. There you go.
Oh, that's a beautiful story, mate. That was lovely.
There you go. The next series is John Moxley and Dustin Rhodes and MGF and stuff, which is going to look really cool too.
Yeah, so I think Britt Baker's got a figure as well on that line.
Oh, I hope so.
I was going to counter your story with another story about that I had about buying wrestling figures as a wee boy, but I thought no, that's for the episode, so I'm holding back and I'm saving it.
I mean, feel free to if you think it's appropriate. I'm not going to judge.
I mean, well, it just means that whenever we get around, it's one less story for that episode. It's not actually that great, so I'm just going to tell it.
Yeah, tell him.
So I don't even know if you would have been old enough to remember this, but there was once upon a time in Buchanan Galleries in Glasgow, a toy shop called Toy Stack.
Okay.
And it was awesome. And I remember when it first opened, I used to love it because I had a great WWF section. And if I'd earned enough, I'd say, I can't even tell you how much a wrestling figure was back in 2000 or 2001, but if I'd earned enough pocket money, I could get one. Say I could maybe get one every month or two, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember getting like a Matt Hardy figure and a Jeff as well, and there was it would be this little routine. I would save up, and then me and my family were ever in town and we were in Buchanan Galleries, that would be where I went. And I loved it because Buchanan Galleries was never somewhere I enjoyed as a child because it was just clothes shops and boring. Ugh. Boots the chemist. Yeah. But then this Toy Stack was amazing, so I loved it. I also remember once being sick, being off school and still being sick at the weekend, and the house phone rang because this is before mobile phones, folks. Granddad's got a story to tell. Okay, the house phone rang and I answered it. It was my brother phoning from my mum's mobile. So there were some mobile phones, but I didn't have one. Okay, my brother said, "Glenn, there's a really rare Commissioner McFoley wrestling figure in the shop, because this would have been about 2000, 2001. Do you want to get it? And you can give me the money." And my brother and I were fighting like cats and dogs all the time at that point. So it was one of the rare kind of nice moments between us at that point. We have a great relationship, but certainly as kids, we were just like brothers fighting all the time. And I loved it. And so then I remember a subsequent time being in there and being torn between two figures. And to be honest, Chris, I couldn't even tell you which ones it was, but there was two figures I was torn between. So I thought, right, I'm going to get this one right now. I was like, I'm going to get this Edge figure. Yeah. And when I come back in 3 or 4 weeks' time, I'll have saved enough money and I can get the Chris Jericho. So just hypothetically, let's say that's what it was. So that's what happened. I bought the Edge and I left, and I was counting down and counting my money and counting down the days, counting up my money, counting down the days for that next visit to Buchanan Galleries. And I say it was like £15 or £10 for a figure. I finally had saved it, and my mum had said, right, we can go into town on Saturday, we can go to your toy shop, and I couldn't wait. I was so excited. I can't even remember what figure it was, but we'll say it was a Chris Jericho. So I just remember driving into Buchanan Galleries, and like going up through the stairs and from the car park, going through the long kind of walkway which links the
Yeah.
car park to the shopping mall section, and like not being allowed to run but walking with like intense excitement getting to this place, and like dragging my mum by the hands like, we need to go, we need to get there, please come on. And I was probably wearing a wrestling t-shirt at the time, and like honestly I would have been 9 or 10 at this point. And
Sorry, can I just quickly interrupt? So whereabouts in Mechanic Galleries now? So what shop is there now to where Toy Stack was?
you're going to find out. So I'm running.
Oh, right, sorry.
I'm running. We're getting closer and we're getting closer. And I was only there 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, remember? Toy Stack, I can't wait because it's always full to the brim and it's always really busy and they have a great WWE figure. And I'm going to get the Chris Jericho and I can't wait. And what the f*** is Build-A-Bear?
Oh, no.
Keep that in, but bleep my F-bomb, but keep that in, Chris, because that's what I felt like on the inside.
Oh,
And
no.
in there, standing only 3 weeks later, was a full-on Build-A-Bear, which is still there to this day. And I just stared at it, and I cried, Chris. I cried like a little boy, because I was one. And I
can
with
feel
my
your
money in
pain.
my hand, and my heart just sunk. And it was like, my mum was like, "Well, we can find another toy shop." And this is before I knew about A1. I was like, "There's not another toy shop in Glasgow, and we'd have to go to Toys R Us and Govan, and you don't like going there."
I have to go to Toys R Us and Govan. I used to go to that Toys R Us all the time.
Oh man! And so I never did get that figure. And
Oh.
every time, even though I am nearly 30, every time I'm in the
Oh, the
galleries, I walk past that flipping place. I'm sorry, I'm angry now. I walk past that shop and there's just this pang of very faint bitterness, this very faint pang of resentment about the Chris Jericho action figure that never was.
Oh, I'm in Mechanic Galleries at least once a week, usually more. Every single time I walk past there now, I'm going to think of that. That's amazing. I didn't know that was a toy shop before.
See, just every time you walk past that bloody bear shop, just under your breath, just a wee swear word, just for me, Chris.
I'll just go Glen Den. Because think about that, Jericho figure could be sitting in the Glen Den right now.
It could be,
but instead it's a Build-A-Bear dressed as Harry Potter or something sitting on the couch. Oh god, I can't wait to do this wrestling figure one. We should do it soon. We should do it for episode 30 is coming up soon. That might be a quite nice anniversary to do it for.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for a toilet break, and then when we come back, we can do our segments, and that can be us for another episode. Is that cool?
Sounds good. Cue your toilet break jingle, please, Chris.
Toilet break. Ooh yeah. And we back in a 5 and a 4 and a 3 and a 2 and a 1. And we back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking the time to sit through the jingle whilst us two went to the toilet and I said hello to my sister because she's just back in after a long day out. And we are now ready, ladies and gents. We've taken a wee bit of a detour and we are going to do one of our favourite segments. And I said it before on the Best Of edition a couple of episodes ago. It is my favourite segment to do on the show, whether I'm telling the story or my friend's telling the story. And it's a good thing for me because I've got a sore back today that I can sit back and listen to Glen tell another story and meet a wrestler.
Meet a wrestler, we've met a wrestler in the flesh.
Ooh, yeah.
I never get tired of that jingle. You talk about sore backs. I think this wrestler who I once met would often complain of a sore back because of the many swanton bombs that he's dropped.
Oh, yes. I like it.
This is actually technically a doubler. I'm going to tell the story, which I have briefly alluded to here and there, about primarily how I met Jeff Hardy, someone who you have also met.
Yep.
But I also happened to incidentally meet Val Venus that day as well.
That's good. But before we get started, let's talk about this, right? So you mentioned Jeff's got a sore back, right? I know Jeff is recently returned and he is, he's healthy now and he's cleaning. I'm so happy about that. But I do worry about the boy. I worry about every single time he takes a bad bump and he's in a long match, he does visibly limp. His face grimaces and he probably is just selling really well. But I know the history of Jeff Hardy. I've watched him my entire life and been a huge fan and admired him and watched him very, very closely. That boy's hurting. He's in a lot of pain.
I mean, before the pandemic hit, he was off. He was only ever doing the Swanton on TV. And
Right.
at house shows, he was doing always doing a spot where he would go to do it, and somebody would interrupt, and he would get the 1 2 3 with the twist of fate,
Right.
and that he was doing that up until his injury, and um, and so if I was them, I wouldn't be making him wrestle every week,
He's
and you
doing some
could
good work,
still,
though.
yeah, no, he actually, I think he's still can still go, and he's still a star. He's still worth having.
Absolutely.
He could still have a world title reign. I'd love to see that again, but he doesn't need to be, because world champions don't need to wrestle every week. This is the thing, and so I just think have him. I think actually do this. Two major American companies, treat your Hardy Boys right, please. Have them wrestle very occasionally, okay?
Yeah.
They will last you longer and be of more value to them if you don't make them wrestle every week. And I have my reservations about how much Action Matt is still wrestling in All Elite right now. It's starting to worry me and irritate me. But you know what? I'm powerless to control. What do I know? I'm just a fan, Chris.
Yes. Nothing wrong with just being a fan, but it's nice to give our opinion and worry about our favourite wrestlers.
I know. And today I was torn between which Hardy Brothers encounter I would tell you about, because both are ridiculous. But I
love that. I love that. I've told my ridiculous stories, but you have a never-ending revolving door about endless staff stories with these wrestlers. I love it.
I mean, I'll tell the Matt Hardy one some other time, maybe next week, maybe the week after. But I mean, if you know, maybe by now, dear listener, that I'm quite anxious around wrestlers. So if you then throw me into an equation with a guy who just will not break character, which is what Broken Matt was when I met him,
or Paul Heyman.
God, yeah, it doesn't, no, Jesus. But I thought I'd tell the Jeff Hardy one because it was 16, and so I don't think you get more anxious socially when you're 16, So for context, 2007 was the year, and Jeff was really probably the most over guy in the roster, because this was the Survivor Series tour, and Jeff was, just about to or had started his feud with Orton. Because the main event of that show, the Braehead Arena, was Jeff Hardy and Triple H versus the Randy Orton and Umaga. And Jeff Hardy easily got the biggest pop of the night at that show, easily. Bigger than Triple H, and Triple H was the guy that got the big final entrance and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously Triple H was over like nothing else, but Jeff Hardy was just a little bit more popular. And he would go on over the next few months to have that incredible feud with Randy Orton, where I don't think he's ever been more on fire as a star.
Yeah,
he was in that 2008 feud. Certainly not in his singles career. So I had not been to a wrestling show since Rebellion 2001 at this point, unless you
you must have been so excited.
Oh, I was so excited. And unless you count the Mulgai Town Hall experience, go back to episode 3, I think it was, for that story.
Mulgai Town Hall. That's great.
It was kind of a fall from grace from the Manchester Evening News Arena. But anyway, I was really excited because I had kind of I'd never stopped being a wrestling fan, but I had been in the shadows as a wrestling fan, because for a lot of my high school, you had to be embarrassed about it a wee bit, and it wasn't cool. But by the time I was 16, I didn't care. And I wasn't Mr. Cool or Mr. Cocky, or Mr. Confident, but I was at a point when I was 16 where I was like, do you know what? I don't care if you don't like me because I like wrestling. Maybe we're not supposed to be friends if you judge me on that one thing I like. That was just I was developing that kind of teenage angst where you're becoming a wee bit more self-assured of who you are. So I was quite open about the fact, and I've got an old school friend who I've known as long as I've known Robert, called Billy, and he's still a friend to this day, and he's a friend of Robert's. And I can't remember why Robert didn't come to the show with me, but Billy did, and I knew Billy. Billy has always been a huge Triple H fan. Triple H is his guy, absolute favorite wrestler of all time. So as soon as I said to Billy, Triple H is advertised for the tour, he was in, he was ready for that. And so I then started going on WWE.com, because they used to, it's different now, but they used to have a dedicated appearances page where they would publish where the appearances were going to happen. And
I remember that.
It was kind of around 06, 07 that started, because the John Cena thing in 2005, when I met him, my dad read about that in a newspaper and told me about that. So it was more of that era. And the funny thing is that the year before, in 2006, when Raw was at the Braehead Arena, Jeff Hardy had done an appearance in HMV. in Braehead, and I remember going on WWE.com in '06 when I was 15 and seeing a picture of Jeff Hardy outside Braehead, just outside the shopping mall, doing his pose at the entrance to Braehead. And
Nice.
my heart's sinking. I was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I've missed my only chance to meet Jeff Hardy. And I have to stress, you and I have spoken about this, and Jeff Hardy is like one of my all-time favorites, and we've said that he just makes you feel good, when you watch
Yeah.
him. Just he has this charisma, and I was like obsessed with him as a preteen and into my teenage years. I read the Exist to Expire, maybe right now, but Exist to Inspire autobiography. I loved everything about him, not just his in-ring stuff, but learning about him as the man, the artist, the musician, the sculptor, the motocross guy. Everything about this guy was just so cool for a shy teenager. He was like the embodiment of everything you wanted to be, because I was this nervous teenage boy who would love to have been interesting in the eyes of people. I would love to have people to have be like marveled at, and to have been like someone to be like totally enamored with me in the same way that I was enamored with Jeff Hardy. And that's I think I'm probably not the only teenager who's been that image conscious and been that, in his heart of hearts, just desired a bit more social acceptance.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming anyone for that. It's just the way it was. Like I probably could have been more outgoing as a teenager and made more friends, and not just my great friend Robert, but I was very shy at that point.
I can vouch for that, though. I know what it's like to be a teenage boy in school that is embarrassed about talking about wrestling. You know what I mean? It's a real thing,
Yeah, it really is. And I see it all the time now as a teacher, and I'm nearly 30 and I can see kids who are like that. But this is an important detail to the story. At the age of 16, I had made friends with a girl.
Oh my word. Everybody sit down. Everybody mellow out. Here we go.
This is the funny thing, right? Because, and like, I'm going to be really honest about this. Like, I was terrified of girls. Like, I couldn't, talk to them. But this girl who I was at school with, she was really friendly, and she remains a friend to this day. She was at my wedding,
Oh, really?
And so, but one of the reasons why I think our friendship has endured is because we became good friends at that time in my life where I was still too terrified, and it was like she was like my entryway to becoming a bit more sociable, because like she was much more socially confident. But being a teenage boy, I was also in love with her. So I just when I used to love hanging out with her. I used to love when we would go into town together, and it was always good when we would just hang about. And it was like just as mates, but like it was still a big deal for me because it was so novelty to have a girl as a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the tender age of 16, and so that's an important detail to the story. So. I'm in my mind, I'm balancing all these things as I'm looking through WWE.com's appearances page, and then I see that they advertise an appearance in Game on Sucky Hall Street, which is no more, but there was a Game on Sucky Hall Street, and it said that if you, on the day of the show, you go there, you pick up your ticket, and you can meet Val Venus, Lance Cade, and Trevor Murdoch. Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I thought that free wrestlers. So I thought this is great, and I didn't have anything of theirs to get signed, so I made my own 8x10s.
Okay, I like it.
So in the style, so like I went on www.com, I got a nice picture of Val, picture of Cade, picture of Murdoch, and printed them all separately. With the kind of just the big block capital names: Val, Venus, Trevor, Murdoch. You know what I mean?
I used to like Cade and Murdoch's theme song.
Yeah. That completed me, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, carry on.
Oh dear, I don't even know where to go. Oh no, have a sip of water.
Yeah, so you printed out your homemade. I've done that too. I used to print them out and stick them on my wall. So
yeah, so I thought, well, at least I'll have something to get signed, because I didn't know at this point. I'd never been to an autograph signing before, so I didn't know that I had been to the Cena thing, but I wasn't aware that you'd you would get an autograph mat. I didn't think that was an option.
Oh yeah, I forgot about them. Yeah.
So that was that. So I remember going into game about a week beforehand. Like I've rushed in the train, so I'll go in there all red and sweaty. I'm like, do you have any tokens left for the signing? And they're like, mate, you're in the wrong game. This is St. Enix Centre. You need to go up to Sauchiehall Street. So I ran up to Sauchiehall Street, and they're like, yeah, okay, here you go. Here's how many do you need? It's a maximum of 4. I said, can I have 3, please? Not realizing that I didn't really have enough people that would come with me. Because I knew for a fact at that point that Billy who's come to the show with me, wouldn't come to the signing for whatever reason. Right. I can't remember why. So I had 3 tickets for 3 autographed items. And so I said to my friend, this girl, I said, will you come with me to the signing? And she was like, yeah, it'll be fun. She was just high on life. Keen to come to something a bit different and a bit unusual. And so so I hadn't quite calculated this, because here's this girl who's a really good friend of mine, but obviously I'm also in love with her, and I'm still trying to some degree, hopelessly I might add, appear to some degree cool in front of her.
Right, yeah.
And I haven't realised that maybe taking her to a wrestling autograph signing at the age of 16 is maybe not the best way to go about that. I don't know. But I thought, you know what's fine, because these aren't idols. I'm not meeting Steve Austin, or Rey Mysterio, it's Val Venus, Lance Kidd, Trevor Murdoch. They're cool, and it'll be cool to have autographs. So I can play this really cool, and it'll be fine, because like I say, they're people who I admire, but they're not going to make my jaw hit the floor. These guys, Yeah. And so I'm in the queue at game, and I'm like, there's maybe an hour to go, and there's already a queue kind of forming, which is kind of all the way to the exit of the store. And I've got my wee notepad, my wee booklet with all my homemade 8x10s, and then somebody runs in with a clipboard and a mobile phone. And it's a game employee. She's wearing a game polo shirt. She goes, ladies and gentlemen, we have some unfortunate news. And we all go, oh no.
Oh God, yeah.
We thought we were going to have to all go home, or something had happened, or maybe the wrestlers had missed their flight. They said, and to this day, I still don't know to this day why this was. But she said, there has been a change to the lineup for today's signing. And then she went on to say, and you cannot complain about this, because it did say subject to change. Right. And you will no longer get to meet Val Venus, Trevor Murdoch, and Lance Kidd. And then she gets a bit of paper out of her pocket, which she's maybe just printed off from the back room. She goes, you will now meet Val Venus and she squints her eyes, Jeff Hardy, only the biggest star on the roster, say for maybe Triple H, She's
she's looking at the paper going, Jeff Hardy?
Mike Adamley, Harvey.
Jeff Hardy.
And so then at that point, my pal turned around and looks at me and she goes, do you know who that is?
Oh man, and you're just about to burst into tears probably.
And I'm like, I haven't barked. And now I'm losing control. And we talked about anxiety earlier on in this episode. And anxiety triggers for a lot of people is when you feel like you can't control a situation. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, now I'm perpetually blushing. I'm not going to look cool in front of her. I have nothing for her to sign. What do I do when I go up and have nothing to sign? And I've got something for Val to sign. What's he going to think of me? What do I say to him? This man is my idol. Oh my God. And then
what's he going to think of me?
I know, right? And it must have been half an hour that had passed before they finally showed up. But it felt like much quicker than that, because my mind was going erasing.
Of course, yeah.
The next moment is actually still on YouTube as a pixelated video. Somebody filmed the moment they walked in, Jeff Hardy and Val Venus. You can, if you know where to look, and if you know what the top of my head looks like as a 16-year-old, I can point out to you where I am. I'll send a link to you at some point. Actually, do you know what?
I'd love to see that.
I'm going to send it to you now, because it'd be good to hear your reaction. And
that'd be good, because then I can post that on the social medias.
But let me be clear. You cannot properly see me. I just know where I am relative to it. You can see. No,
I know, but it would just be kind of cool to see the video, because I love that. That's going to be one of my thankful segments one week. I love seeing old footage around that time. Now you can see footage for anything now on YouTube, but back then when it was the infancy of filming stuff on your phone, I think that's really interesting.
I found
to see that.
So what this is, what you're seeing is them coming in, and they came in through the front door and they went straight into the back, and then that's where they went for about 10 or 15 minutes before they came back out. So I'm going to send you this clip, and we'll post it on the socials. So I'm just going to
Okay.
paste this now.
I had a wee bit of a glitch there when I went to say social media. I just went on the It's like the woman when she was trying to read Jeff Hardy's name.
Harvey. Jeff Harvey.
His name is Jeff Hardy.
Right, that's the link coming your way now. Now, at this moment, that when you watch this clip, Chris, at this moment, you need to understand that my heart is racing. Okay.
Okay.
As they're coming into game, and you see the manager walking as well.
Oh, there he is.
I'm now.
Wait, I'm gonna play it with audio. Hang on. Jeff. Look at Val Venus looking like $1 million. He's walking like a pure star there.
Now, if you pause it at like exactly to the end of 7 seconds, you can just see my head to the top left corner of the TV that you can see. And it's like I've got short hair and stuff. But anyway, the point is that I want you to see that moment and see what it was like, because I was like totally and utterly like bumfuzzled at that moment. Like I was so unsure of what to do. And we were quite near the front of the queue, so they go straight to the back, and there's maybe a couple of kids who, for various reasons, who get to go backstage and get to meet them first, and that was really sweet. And then they come out, and at this point, I'm hopeless at this point. I still don't know what to do. But there's a few people in front of me, and I see that they're getting like autograph mat stuff signed.
Yeah.
So the anxiety turns into kind of Dutch courage when I first meet Val, because you met Val, then you met Jeff, right?
Right.
And I get to Val, and I think I have told the story before, and I said, "Oh, my friend wants to know if you can take your towel off tonight." And I had all my, and so I think all my nerves went into that courageous comment, and Val went, "Well, we'll see." You notice he's doing the big Val Bosky voice, "Hello, lady, we'll see," like that, really long. Hello. So he signs that, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great. This has gone really well." And then my pal goes to meet Val. And then I get to Jeff, and then all that confidence just melts away. This hero of mine. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And you can't really tell from that video, Chris, but Jeff was clearly exhausted. And I don't blame him, because he's probably been told at the last minute, you need to do this signing. Yep. And I don't know to this day why Caden Murdoch didn't do it, because they were at the show. They did wrestle that night. But so I go up to him, and I go, "Hi, Jeff!" Like, because I can't control the volume of my voice. And then he goes, he doesn't say anything at first. And then, even though this wasn't the established protocol, I put my hand right in front of his face to ask for a handshake, but I don't say anything. And then he then looks up as he's signing this autograph mat, and he looks at me, and he just limply grabs my hand and sort of shakes and goes, "Oh, man." Like that. And you can tell I felt really guilty at that point. So now I've got nerves and I've got guilt, because this guy is clearly shattered. He's clearly jet lagged. He's been told at the last minute he needs to come and do a signing when he was probably not nearly psyched up enough for it. And so he does that for me. And then I don't know what to do. I'm just standing, and the guys are like saying, you need to go now. And I'm just standing looking at him. And then I just go, and then I look at my friends here. There's this girl that I'm in love with, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I just go, "Jeff, you've been my hero for years." And then I walked away. And then I just left. And then she was laughing at me. And of course she's Miss Cool. And
oh God.
She does it all, she plays it really cool because she doesn't, know him. So
yeah, of course.
And then she just never let it down after that. She's like, "I can't believe you said that to him." And it wasn't really so much what I said, it's how I said it. And it was me, like, I'm this like tall, lanky kid. And if a little 4-year-old had said that to him, it would have been really sweet, But it was not the fact that I just said it to him, but I'd already sort of demanded a handshake for him out of nerves. Right. And then I shouted it at him. Why did I shout at him?
I just love, like, that's where your mind, not only when you're 16 years old, but a couple of times when you've met wrestlers, like the decisions you've made, like, for example, like the weather stuff and all that,
Yeah.
And then like talking to Pat Patterson and trying to like explain something to him, and because he wasn't understanding what you were saying, you were just talking like what I am like right now, just like a million miles per hour and stuff. And they're like understandable things, but they're just shouting at poor Jeff Hardy, who's clearly tired.
I don't know if it was my anxious reaction to wanting him to notice me more,
Aye.
because I'm thinking like I've always wanted to meet him, and then I get told at the last minute that I'm going to get to meet him with very little time to prepare for it, and it's not what I wanted it to be. They say never meet your heroes. You know what I mean? And I reckon if I'd met Jeff Hardy on a different day, like he was lovely when you met him. You know what I mean?
Well, he was also shattered when he met me as well. He was yawning when I was meeting him.
But at the same time, I'm like, I am not against Jeff at all in this story. This is all me. Like he deserved to be shattered at that point. And if it was me in his position, I would have been raging.
I just love how you were being told to leave, and instead of like complying with the rules, you just shouted at Jeff Hardy, Jeff, Jeff, you've been my hero. That's great. That's one of my favorite ones.
So yeah, it's funny because when you texted me earlier and you're like, "Should we do meet a wrestler?" and I was looking through my list, like, who else have I got to tell? And I thought, that and there's that one. Oh God, this is never ending. So I do like to think that maybe one day I'll get to meet Jeff again.
Absolutely.
I'd like to kind of right that wrong. It's the same with the Paul Heyman thing. And I don't think so. I saw him wrestle that year. In 2007, I don't think I've seen him wrestle since. Do you know that? Because he wasn't at the Maximum Impact because he got pulled at the last minute.
That's
and then
right.
when I went to see Raw in 2017, he got injured, so it was just Matt at that show. So yeah, I've yet to kind of rectify that. So I've not only have I not seen him, I've only seen him live twice actually, in Rebellion and then at that show. So I'd like to. I'm sure I've not seen him. But anyway,
I've seen Jeff 3 times. I saw him at 2002, back in the day, and then I saw him team with Triple H against, who did he wrestle? It might have been Orton, and because this is April 08. I saw him. I can't remember because I remember he kind of he was doing that "We're Not Worthy" bow thing, and he kind of bowed for like on the top rope and saw us, which was cool. And then I saw him wrestle Matt in an I Quit match. Obviously an Extreme Rules match in April 09. And that was it. But I mean, it's been a while, so maybe one day again. And that's a perfect, if he's ever done with WWE, Jeff is a perfect tour for Inside the Ropes.
Well, they were going to bring Matt and Jeff over because when they did the tour with Matt in 2016, and I will go on to tell that story in the future, maybe next week, when they did that, there was they had an agreement with him that they would hopefully down the line do a Hardy Boys tour because they knew by the following year Jeff would be allowed to come back to the UK.
Right, yeah.
But then they ended up signing with WWE, and so it never happened. But I think there is, because all elites seem to be quite flexible with these sorts of things. I think if Jeff ever does leave WWE again, which he will one day, of course.
Of course, yeah.
I think there's a good chance that you'll get a Jeff ITR, maybe even a Hardy Boys ITR tour.
That's a dream one right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing another amazing story on Meet a Wrestler. Thank you to my good, close personal friend Glenn, even though it was embarrassing on his part. Now, who would have thought all these years later that embarrassing moment that you said to Jeff Hardy in the middle of Sucky Street, that he was your hero, not that you're his hero, that he's your hero, now is a good thing because you're able to tell on the podcast. So all these things happen for a reason, and this is the reason because of this show right now.
Yeah. So I as much as these are embarrassing stories, I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy telling them because
exactly.
We spoke about mental health at the beginning of this. For me, it's like a kind of checkpoint of like how far I have come.
Absolutely.
And we're all so vulnerable when we're 16 in terms of our mental health. And that doesn't end, as a teenager. Your mental health is with you your whole life. But often telling these stories, I've ended up coming out of it with a sense of pride. Like when I told the John Cena story, I didn't realize what that did for me. And now I'm actually, despite the fact I can still make very strange decisions when I meet these wrestlers. If I was given the opportunity to meet Jeff now, I would be nowhere near as nervous. Like
absolutely, yeah.
And the fact is that even though that Paul Heyman thing was embarrassing, I still then took a microphone and spoke in front of 1,000 people that night and asked my question. You know what I mean? So I'm getting, these are all signs that as I grow, my mental health gets healthier, and it's all for both of us, for all of us, for anyone listening. It's your mental health is a work in progress, and so as daft and as funny as it was, man, I feel quite good about myself telling that story. I'm not gonna lie.
It's just, I mean, I wouldn't be able to handle that if I was expecting to meet Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, and then Jeff Hardy walks out, you know what I mean? So I think you did very, very well, all things considered, especially because you were with a girl, and it could have gone a lot worse. And that's a great story. It's a great experience, and that's the thing. It's a story, you know what I mean? And it's an experience. You could have easily just went, up to Jeff Hardy and said, "Hi, Jeff," and got the autograph, and "Thanks, Jeff. Tell Trevor Murdoch I said hello." But that never happened. It was this really defining moment, in your wrestling fandom that you're able to look back on and laugh and go, "Oh, he's one of my favourite wrestlers ever, and this is what happened when I met him." You know, and then you get to the point where you meet Jeff in the future and you can tell him that story. Isn't that mental?
I know. I'd like to think that, that is definitely what I'll do. If I ever do get to meet him inside the ropes, I'll say to him, I met you when I was 16 and I was an absolute so here's to a second chance.
So apologies, Jeff. Yeah, that's great. You go, Jeff, can you do an intro for our podcast, please? And just hold the mic, just hold the phone up to his mouth. Just like, say it, go on, say it, please.
Don't say it, I'm going to shout at you again.
Jeff, you were my hero, but now you're not anymore. Anyway, yes, lovely story. Another excellent example of why Meet a Wrestler can be so much fun here on the Wrestling Connection podcast. So I'd like to thank every single one of you for listening this week. Please tune back in next time, and please look back in our archives and have a look and see if any episodes stick with your fancy. And if not, then fine. Hopefully we can do better in the future. And please remember to follow us on the social media. Twitter is at WrestleConnect1, Instagram is at WrestleConnection, and YouTube is simply the Wrestling Connection Podcast. Please recommend us to a friend, a family, or a pet. A friend or a whole family.
An entire family. Dear the Johnsons.
And leave us a 5-star review. If you're going to leave us a review, you need to leave us a 5-star. If you're going to leave us a 3-star review, we're not interested. Has to be a 5-star. Has to be like Rob Van Dam, one of a kind. Until next time, folks, thanks very much for listening to the Wrestling Connection podcast. Stay safe out there, everybody, and tune in next time for some more beautiful wrestling chatter. Goodbye.